Oh, hey, you guys want to talk about dishwashers?
Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom, the nation's largest discount appliance dealer. Visit our website for deals and store locations near you.
Hey everybody, this is Ben from Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom, and today we're talking about dishwashers. So, if it's your first time buying a dishwasher, you might be a little bit confused by all the options. Honestly, before I started working here, all I knew about dishwashers was that they were noisy, they didn't work really well, they were usually white, and they came with my apartment. So today, we're actually going to take a look through some of the common features that you can find in the range of dishwashers that we offer, and the pros and cons of each of those features. So to start, let's talk about size. Because if you've been looking at options online, you might have seen that they're all very close in size, and that's because, as you look down the line here, dishwashers actually do come in a standard 24 inches. So you can actually get an 18-inch width model that is ADA compliant, that's Americans with Disability Act, but unless you need it, most of them are actually just going to come in a 24-inch range, which makes it very simple to fit into your kitchen. And what you'll notice too, height doesn't actually really matter either, because they have these little feet where you can actually adjust the height of each model. All right, so moving on, let's talk about some of the features that you see on the outside visually, because obviously, you know, if this is the first dishwasher you're buying, you want it to look good, right? You're designing your kitchen for the first time, so you've got some options. First option that a lot of people go with is going to be front controls. So they're easy to work with, but the problem that you have with these, some people don't aesthetically like the looks of them, but they're really easy to actually see everything that's going on and all the options that you have. So people like this one just for the ease of use of knowing exactly what this dishwasher offers. Your next option then is going to be, you can actually have top mount controls on these dishwashers, which is actually going to give you a much cleaner face. So aesthetically it's pleasing. And a lot of these actually aren't branded. So like for instance, this Bosch right here doesn't have any external branding on it. So no matter what the rest of your kitchen is, if you have to mix brands, it's not actually going to stick out like a sore thumb unless it has a very distinct handle, like KitchenAid has a very distinct handle. So we can take a look at that later. But on these, your controls are actually on the top of the unit. And so, you know, that's probably the con of this one, is if you have a countertop that sticks out a little bit, it sometimes is hard to use these control panels. So you're kind of trading the ease of use for the aesthetic choices. And then among top control dishwashers, you have another option, which is if you don't actually want a handle, you know, if you think you're going to run into it because you have an island that forces you to kind of get a little cramped in your kitchen, you have the option to do these pocket handles. And so these ones, this one actually does have the front controls, but just to give you an idea, they don't have an exterior handle like these. It's actually a pocket that you reach up into to grab and bring it down. And so those are your basic options aesthetically, are going to be either a front-mounted control panel or top-mounted with a handle or a pocket. All right, so now that you're familiar with the sizes and styles of dishwashers that you can buy, let's talk a little bit about what's inside of them. So one of the biggest contributing factors to performance is going to be what the tub's made out of. So starting at the low end here, your entry-level dishwashers are typically going to have a fully plastic interior. So see, inside of the door here is plastic, inside of the tub is plastic, and you know, that's a good entry-level option. Plastics are pretty durable nowadays, but it's the entry-level option for a reason. Your next step up is they actually do make what we call hybrid tubs, which are a combination of stainless steel and plastic. So the Samsung here is a really good example of that. You'll notice the inside of the door is stainless, and the tub itself here is going to be plastic. So that's a hybrid tub, and it's kind of your step in between. And then as you get up to the higher end, or even in mid-grade dishwashers, you're going to start to see this. A lot of them have actually a fully stainless interior. So this GE does. And so what you're going to notice, and the benefits of this, is that a stainless steel tub is going to be more durable. You know, it doesn't crack, it doesn't hold odors the way that a plastic might. It's also going to be quieter. So significantly, you'll start to see decibels, which is how they measure the noise of these units, start to drop off when you get into stainless tubs versus plastic. And that's actually going to be your benefit of the hybrid tub, is because it has the stainless on the inside of the door, it's actually going to give you a little bit of that noise reduction, so it's a step up from your full plastic interior, but obviously it's not going to be as good as a full stainless interior. The other big benefit of having something fully stainless on the inside is going to be that it actually is more energy efficient, because as the cycle runs, the stainless itself is going to actually heat up and hold heat more efficiently than plastic. So you don't have to run the heating element as much, making it a lot more energy efficient. And because it's stainless, you can actually get it hot enough to do more advanced cycles like sanitize features. All right, so next, let's talk about noise levels, because actually the type of tub you select is going to really affect how noisy this machine is. So on the lower end of things, with a full plastic tub, the loudest dishwashers are usually gonna run somewhere in the 60 decibel range. So decibels is actually how they measure the sound intensity of these machines. So whenever you see a number with dBA on a dishwasher, that's a reference to how loud it is. 60 is about the loudest, and then as you move up through the different styles, your hybrid tubs and your full stainless interiors, these are actually going to do a better job of dampening the noise levels. So hybrid is going to be quieter typically than a full plastic interior, and then full stainless interior is going to be the quietest. And as you move up through the series, once you get into the 40s for decibels, like 60 decibels is very loud. That's something that, you know, maybe you want to run it overnight or you want to run it when you leave for the day. 40, 50 decibels, you'll hear it, but it's not going to be completely very loud. Once you get below 44 decibels, they actually start putting lights and things on the bottoms of these to make sure that you know that it's actually running, because they get very quiet at that point. And then the quietest that we're seeing right now is right about 38 decibels, where we consider that whisper quiet. And at that level, I mean, it's really hard to hear that these things are actually running. So depending on what your needs are, if noise level is not super important to you, you can actually save a little bit of money by sticking with something with a plastic tub. You know, if you don't really use your dishwasher very often and you're just using it to fill the hole in your counter so that, you know, it doesn't have a space sitting there. But if you actually like to run your dishwasher and you have an open concept kitchen where that noise is actually going to interfere with you watching TV in the living room, things of that nature, the decibel levels are something definitely that you want to pay attention to as you're making your decision, and try to think maybe about, you know, what kind of noise levels you can accept while the thing's running and what times maybe you're going to run it at. All right, so moving on to the next feature that's going to influence pricing on these dishwashers, third rack. So this is something that you see in a lot of models nowadays, and there's actually a lot of different options and a lot of reasons you might want to use a third rack. So this is kind of your basic entry-level third rack, and as you can see, it's not adjustable, it's just a flat rack where you can lay silverware. But the benefit of this is going to be that because you can put your silverware up top, you can actually take the silverware basket out of the machine and have more space on your lower level for larger bulky items, plates, pots, things of that nature. So then as you move up in the line, you can actually start to get a little bit more customization in your racks. So this Bosch here actually has a adjustable third rack, but it's fairly basic for being adjustable. So you can see here it actually has these tabs that you can depress and adjust the rack. So you see there's a little bit of variation on the sides here where you can actually adjust the height of this rack, and that way you can switch it from silverware over to, if you wanted to do coffee mugs, things of that nature. And then it does have some adjustable tines here that you can also use. So it starts to give you a little bit of customization, but as you move up in the different models here and in quality, you actually start to see even more customization options in these racks. So this right here is an option from Miele that has a really nice rack, which is right here. So this one, you know, we get even a little bit more advanced. This one, you can actually move the rack completely out of the way, so that way if you have taller items that you want to put in your second rack, they can actually come up next to the third rack and they will still fit. And then you can actually still use this for silverware and remove the silverware basket. So you do still get that cool space-saving option from down below. And then when we get to the top of the line when it comes to third racks, KitchenAid has really great third racks, and this is actually, we mentioned this before, that they have very distinct handles. This is an example of that, where they've got red on the end and it's very bold, but we're talking about racks, so let's get back to that. This has a third rack that is actually very advanced. So you notice this actually has specific jets that actually spray directly onto the third rack. And so any bowls, cups that you put in here are actually going to get water jets sprayed directly into them. They also then do have up here a removable silverware basket. So if, like we were talking about before, you do want to pull the silverware rack out from the bottom level and use it for bulky items, you can actually pull this out of the dishwasher and take it over to your silverware drawer just like you would with the rack. And that way, it makes it easier to unload the dishwasher, because that is kind of one of the complaints with the flat ones, if you are going to use it for silverware instead, is you have to constantly be running back and forth between your silverware drawer and your dishwasher. So with the KitchenAid here, that's not a problem. So that's racks, and next we'll move on to talking about features. So next, we're going to talk about some of the different features that can affect noise levels and pricing. So one of the big ones is going to be how these dishwashers actually accomplish the drying process. So you'll see some of these actually have fan-assisted drying. That is effective, but it actually is going to increase your noise level a little bit. Other ones, like some of these Bosches, as you get into the upper levels here, are going to actually have an auto-open feature where they're going to actually automatically open up an inch or two at the end of the cycle. And that way, it's going to be a quieter option, and it does a nice job of drying things. And then at the upper end here, Bosch has what they call a crystal dry feature. And so this one, depending how quickly you need your things dried by, will actually do a really nice job of drying plastics without condensation, where if you see in the back there, that little metal triangle actually has a mineral in it that they mine in Africa that, when exposed to water, causes a reaction that causes it to get up to about 175, 180 degrees. And so it actually very efficiently heats the inside of this tub, which, like we talked about before, the stainless is going to do a better job of holding that heat too. So when it does pop open, it's actually going to evaporate the water out and dry faster. And now that temperature is actually going to dry your Tupperware and your plastic cups without leaving condensation on the inside. So that's a very quiet and energy efficient way to do the drying process. Now, another mechanical feature that might influence your noise levels is whether it has a disposer or not in it. So most of these modern dishwashers actually take a little bit longer to run their cycles than they used to, because they're incredibly energy efficient and they actually recycle the water throughout the cycle. So a lot of these options are actually going to have within it this little strainer. And so this is what actually captures all of your food particles and keeps it from recirculating with the water when you're reusing the water, so that you save on energy and water costs. Now, that one is nice and it's energy efficient and it's quiet, but you do have to empty that trap every once in a while. It's not very common anymore, but some of these do actually have a hard food disposer in them, which basically a little garbage disposal, so you don't have to clean it out. But cons of that one is it's going to increase your noise level a little bit, and it is a mechanical component, so as opposed to a strainer where it's a $5 fix to buy the new screen, if your disposer stops working, it becomes a little bit more of a challenging issue to fix. All right, so lastly, let's talk about the cycles. Because depending on your usage, there's actually going to be a wide variety of cycles that you can run in these machines beyond just the auto wash function. So on your lower end, you're going to be a little bit more limited on the different cycles that you can choose. So, you're going to be typically choosing between heavy, normal, quick wash, just some of the more basic cycles. And so as you kind of move up, you get more options. So as you start moving up in the series, typically what you're going to start to see are things like a sanitized cycle, which is very helpful right now especially, but baby bottles and, if you use blender bottles with protein shakes in them, anything like that, a high heat wash is really good for killing the bacteria and making sure that everything's sanitary. You're also going to start to see more delicate cycles, so things that aren't going to fog your china or your nice crystal. And you'll start to see that as you get up into more higher cycles. And you're also going to start to see, delay functions. So if you do go with a more noisy dishwasher, you can actually set up to a 4-hour delay on some of these machines so that it will start running when you're not home or when you're asleep in a time period where it's not going to bother you. So those are some of your more entry-level features. And then as you keep moving up here, you start to see different options based on the model. So this one here actually has bottle jets. So like we were talking about bottles, that's a very helpful feature there. But you can also start to see steam features, which are going to loosen caked and dried on food particles. You also see some of these that actually start to have different wash zones. So if you want to save water and you only want to do a half load, some of these you can actually load different areas of the machine and save water that way. And now, because we talked about how efficient dishwashers are, where they're always recycling the water, your standard load in a lot of these machines takes a lot longer than it used to. Some of them take 2-3 hours. So a lot of these, if it's something that you need, they do have express wash on a lot of these different machines as well. So a 1-hour wash here is a very helpful feature if you do multiple loads per day. And then as you keep moving up, some of these, which actually connect to the Wi-Fi, are going to let you download cycles off of their website. So what's cool, like these LGs are a good example of that. You can actually download a different cycle to replace that button through their app. And so as you get into the more Wi-Fi connected models, things like that delay start, you can actually just remote start the dishwashers from outside the house with some of these models, which is really cool. And so your heated dry options, different delays. This one goes up to 8 hours. And so there really are just so many options when it comes to cycles that's the one that you really want to do your research on, see which ones you would actually use, and make a good decision of which ones are actually going to be worth the money for you, because you do see a lot of these have so many cycles that honestly I wouldn't use half of them. You might not either, but if a higher end model has that function that you need, it might be worth considering, especially things like the sanitize or the delay starts or the dry boosts. Or, you know, a big one is definitely that delicate cycle, because if you do have expensive china and crystal, you don't want it to get fogged up from being washed in properly. All right, folks, so that's a good overview of all the different things that really separate a $350 dishwasher from a $2,000 dishwasher, and then the combinations that give you all the different models in between. So definitely make sure to do your research, make sure you find the dishwasher model that's right for you based on the combination of features in your budget. If you have any additional questions or ideas for future videos, make sure please leave that in the comments, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, keep it clean.